I'm Jen, and I'm going to take you through 3 different transitions for my yoga class. So in my class, I often tell students, now we're going to transition to the other side. There's 3 different ways that I encourage my students to do that. So, just so you know, a very typical transition, and this is what's taught in Ashtanga yoga, and that's basically where you go from Tadasana to Urdhva to UTTANASANA. You hop or you step back to high plank, straight down to Chaturanga Dandasana. You push up to Urdhva Mukha SVANASANA, and then roll back over the toes for Adho Mukha SVANASANA. Alright, now, not everyone can do that, and not everyone can do it a lot of times. So, first transition. So let's say you've done this bit, and then you're here. You can stay here in standing forward bend while the rest of the class does whatever it is that they're doing in the back of the mat. And then when you hear me say, raise your right leg up, this is what they'll do. They'll raise their right leg up, they'll bring their right leg forward. If you're here and you hear me say, raise your right leg up, bring the right leg forward, keep your right leg exactly where it is and take the left leg back. And then you're in the class with everyone else. And then when I say now transition to the other side, you'll come back forward to your forward bend and you'll just stay here until you hear me say now raise the left leg up behind you, bring your left leg forward. You're going to raise the right leg up, bend the left leg, take the right leg back and back to the pose. So you've changed sides. All right. The next transition for some students, so they've done this bit, they've done that bit, and you know that the rest of the class is hopping back to high plank. You can just step back to downward dog, to Adho Mukha SVANASANA. Now remember, downward facing dog has lots of different variations. So, if for any reason you're feeling a bit tired or fatigued or you're not feeling 100%, you don't want to do another downward facing dog today, instead of doing this, one of the easier options is to come down onto your knees, toes together, heels apart, toes together, knees apart, as you sit back on your heels. Walk the hands forward, try and keep the wrists and elbows lifted as you drop the head down into Adho Mukha Virasana. So Adho Mukha Virasana is not child's pose. Child's pose is knees together, hands by your feet. You can certainly go into Balasana. Balasana is child's pose. This is a perfectly fine place. But we still want you to be active in the class, and child's pose isn't very active. So a good option is knees apart, toes together. As you reach the hands forward, walking the fingertips forward, keep the wrists and elbows lifted as you rest the head down and relax. Pushing the hips back onto the heels, creating space here under the arms. So Adho Mukha Virasana. And then when you know the class is moving on, you come back up onto all fours and move into whatever pose you want to do. Now, moving all the way back into that can slow you down a bit in the class. So maybe that's not the best option, because getting up and down off the ground can be hard. So another option is Anahatasana. In Anahatasana, the knees are hip-width apart, the feet are hip-width apart. I'm just going to use a block to demonstrate how to modify Anahatasana. So in this position, you might start here with wrists under the shoulders, but then walk the hands slightly forward as you rest the head down, trying to keep the hips right over the knees. Now, not everyone can get their head down. It requires a certain amount of shoulder mobility to get the head down. So if you're having trouble getting your head down, you might put a block there for your head. And remember, these blocks have lots of different heights. So maybe you go with this height. And maybe that's easier on your shoulder or easier on your spine. One of the things you want to look out for in Anahatasana, though, is that you're not sinking in the belly. So oftentimes, especially if somebody's hypermobile or in the spine, or they don't have a lot of strong core strength, they'll do this. And the tailbone is tipping up to the sky, and belly is getting stretched and soft, and we've got some compression happening in the back. All right, in Anahatasana, we want to stay strong in the core and keep the spine fairly neutral. So keeping the hips over the knees and reaching the arms forward. Hugging the belly in, so trying to support the spine in that way. Same thing applies in downward facing dog. Some people who are hypermobile in downward dog will also do that dip. They'll let the belly go soft and they'll let the spine sort of sink. You want to avoid that in downward facing dog as well. But that's a lecture for another day. All right, your next transition is the very typical ashtanga transition, which I like to call a yoga burpee, because we usually hop back, press down, push up, and then move in, press back to downward dog. So, not everyone can do all of those poses so well. So, some things to keep in mind is you can always use a chair, right? And you usually want to keep your chair on your mat because they do have a tendency to slide. So you can always go into your Urdhva to your Uttanasana with the chair. And then with your chair, you can step back into a modified ADHO MUKHA SVANASANA. So with this, we're still getting the hamstring lengthening that we want. We're still getting the space opening under the arms and around the ribs, and we're still getting this happening between the shoulder blades. So spinning the inner elbows up towards each other, allowing the neck and the head to relax. This is still a good downward facing dog. And then when you hear the class is moving into a pose, raise your left leg up behind you, bring your left leg forward, and hopefully don't break the glass, and move into the pose that the rest of the class is doing. All right. Other options that you can take. So when we're here, and we go into Uttanasana, Ardha Uttanasana, hop or step back to high plank, Phalakasana. Remember, you can always bring the knees down. What we're looking for in Phalakasana is alignment between the crown of the head, the shoulders, the hips, and the heels. So I can still get that alignment whether the knees are up or down. Same thing applies to Chaturanga Dandasana. So I still want the alignment in this low plank position. The knees can be up or down. It doesn't matter. But we want to try and keep the elbows at 90 degrees. Try to keep the shoulders away from the ears. And then inhale, pushing up. This is upward dog. Not everyone can do this one either. So, if when you came down, you couldn't hold the plank, right? So you were here, you're like, oh, resting on your belly. That's just fine. But you still got to work to do the back bend. So tucking the thumbs under the ribs, under what would be a bra line if you wore a bra. Shoulders back and away from the ears, trying to get the elbows still at 90 degrees. SD card. So here we are back in Bhujangasana. Remember, either pushing up about halfway, full Bhujangasana, the arms are completely straight and the hips and the thighs are still down. Most people cannot nor should not do full Bhujangasana. Even mine leaves a little bit to be desired. So, if you're not moving into full Bhujangasana, you stay here about halfway. Trying to keep the legs active but not overly tight in the lower back. Or if you want to come up to upward facing dog, then you got to push up the thighs, the hips, so you're just on the tops of the feet. Lengthening the spine. Try not to collapse in the lower back. We don't want to cause any unnecessary compression back there. Pushing the ground away. So try not to let your shoulders come out to your ears, okay? So pushing the ground away, trying to lift the spine up out from between the shoulders. And then from here, we start with the toes. So rolling over the toes, pushing the front of the mat away from you. So thumb and index finger making good contact with the ground as you press back into Adho Mukha Svanasana. All right, so from there, you'll do the other stuff. You'll raise your right leg up behind you, bring it forward, turn the heel down, and come on up. So different variations for all of that stuff. And remember, as you bring that leg forward, we want to curl the spine forward, hug the knee in close, holding it close, so you can get that leg through the hands. So it's a bit of core strength there as well as you try and lift the spine, hug the knee in, and get it close up. All right, so from there, lots of different options for you to try as you transition from one side to the next. Choose the variations that are right for you. Thank you very much for watching this video.